This is Rob T from the What's on My Mind podcast. Wanted to come on here real quick because I need to add a disclaimer. These next few podcasts we're going to do in the next few weeks are going to be very real, very raw, and we are allowing our guests to be very open because we believe strongly in the subject matter of mental illness. So there may be a couple of times in these podcasts where some language could be a little bit more explicit than normal. So we ask that you please be aware of that and listen at your own discretion. But at the same time, we do want to thank you for tuning in. And now, please just enjoy the rest of the podcast.
Do you suffer from problems with your skin? Maybe you have acne, rosacea, or you just want to have a younger and healthier look? Then Chic Boutique is the place for you. Chic Boutique prides themselves on being a corrective skincare clinic. They offer cutting-edge technologies as well as their own professional product line. Your skincare goals will be reached quickly and effectively without being invasive or using toxic chemicals to achieve the results you desire. They offer customized facials, advanced skincare treatments, and so much more. They also specialize in permanent makeup and body treatments. Give them a call at 830-556-0815. That's 830-556-0815. Stop by and talk to them in person at 2115 Stevens Place, Suite 1010, New Braunfels, Texas 78130. You can also find them online at www.chicboutique.org. That's www.chicboutique.org. And guys, don't feel left out. There is a treatment for you too. Don't knock it till you try it. Start your skin journey today by calling Chic Boutique.
Hey, this is Rob T.
Hey, this Big Will.
The week is almost through,
And there's a lot we start through.
and we just want to share it with you. Some of it may be motivational,
Some inspirational.
but it will always be sensational. So sit back
And relax.
and check out What's on My Mind.
Hello.
Hey, what's happening? We trying to go Barry Manilow or whatever it's saying?
I was trying to do something different this time,
I get
instead
you.
of the yelling out the hello all the time. Just started to do it that way. I'm just kind of changing it up a bit.
Don't.
What's up, everybody? This is Rob T.
It's Big Will.
And you're listening to What's on My Mind. That's right. It's Podcast Thursday once again.
Yes.
And if you've been looking at our social media, you know this week we got a brand new topic we're going to be talking about the next few weeks. We thought it would be something interesting. Not only is it interesting, but I think it's also something that a lot of us, and I did say us, deal with
Yes.
on a daily basis. And you'll have to excuse me. You'll probably hear me cough every now and then. No, I don't have the Rona. It's this lunch that our lovely guest offered to me, and I think I got something stuck in my throat. But it's
you
delicious.
don't know what I put in there.
But it is delicious. Anyway, but you've already heard her voice, so without further ado, let's bring on our guest. This is the lovely, you've heard her before. She's like a star of What's on My Mind podcast.
She's a regular.
Yeah, this is Miss Michelle Haggerty. What's up, Michelle?
Hey guys, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, welcome back. It's good to have you. Good to
Nope.
see you.
Yeah.
It's this whole coronavirus thing has kept us all locked up, so we really haven't seen much of anybody lately. But it's good to see you.
Oh, what's going on here?
He's just adjusting your mic.
Okay.
Yeah, to
I'm
make sure.
feeling attacked by the mic. I'm like,
No, we
"Oh."
just want to make sure that you're heard very loud, very clear. So
Yes.
All right, cool.
But anyway, so the reason why we brought you in is we talked about this weeks past. We were going to bring up the subject of mental illness, and a lot of people deal with this issue on different levels. There's people that deal with different types of mental illness. There's some that deal with it very severely, and then some not so severe. And so I kind of wanted to bring this topic to the table and talk about it, but also to bring a little spin on it, which we'll talk about later. We'll get to this part of it, but from a medical standpoint and a spiritual standpoint.
Yeah.
Because there are arguments on both sides, and like I said, we'll get more into that part later. But for now, I want to start off with just kind of some personal dealings with it. So, Michelle, I'm going to go first because
Okay.
I want to kind of give mine. I don't think that the stuff I deal with is very severe. I say that now, but of course, when I'm actually going through it, sure as hell feels severe.
Yeah, I've actually been with you on your journey, and I remember even talking to you about it a long time ago before you even were quote unquote diagnosed.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So
And I was right.
So what I deal with, for those that don't know, is every now and then I deal with anxiety and like these panic attack things that will happen. Now, they have not happened a lot over the past couple years. But when they do happen, they suck, and they will take me out for the rest of the day. Yeah, like there have been days at work where I've gotten a quote unquote attack, right, or a spell or whatever you want to call it, and I will literally be like, I gotta go home.
Yeah.
I gotta go home, and I can't explain it. It's just this feeling that I have, and like I said, it pretty much it puts me down for the rest of the day. The way I feel in my head is if I have one of these attacks and they're severe enough to where I cannot think past it or fight it in that way, my way of curing it for the day is just going to sleep.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then once I wake up, I'll be fine. It's like starting over again. So it's happened at my home when I've been at home, and it'll be like 7:30, and I'll be like, I'm going to bed. And my wife's like, "You tired?" No, I'm just not having a good. I'm going to sleep.
Yeah, you have to force yourself.
Yeah.
Don't forget to even mention that it's put you in the hospital before.
Yeah, oh yeah. It was several times. Really? Yeah. So when this thing first started, it was right after Chacho died.
I'm just putting your business out there.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. No, it's all good. It was after Chacho died. See, the thing is, didn't know it at the time, but I was dealing with acid reflux. But see, I didn't know it at the time. So you got to keep in mind, Chacho was pretty young when he passed away. He was like 30. I want to say he was 38, maybe. Yeah. Could have been younger, maybe 36. And he's younger than me. So he died, and all of a sudden in my head, I'm thinking, oh, crap, I'm next. Exactly. Yeah. So then all of a sudden I started getting these symptoms that were physical. They were the acid reflux symptoms. But for those of y'all that never had acid reflux, it happens around your heart area. So I'm an overweight guy. I'm my heavy, what was it, Heavy D used to say back in the day? I'm the heavy lover, whatever. That's me. Anyway, I'm a bigger guy. I'm an overweight guy. So when that happened, and I felt that in my heart area, man, being a big guy, your mind goes there.
Oh, heart attack.
Yeah, exactly. And so not knowing what it was, dude, I thought the worst. So long story short, when I'd have these spells, it would take me to the emergency room because I didn't know what the heck was going on. And then every time I went to the emergency room, they'd be like, "You're fine." They'd take my blood pressure. My blood pressure would be high when I got there because you're freaking out, man.
Yeah.
Your blood pressure is going to go up. But every single time after I'd been there for a little bit, my blood pressure would go back to normal. And it was actually, the doctors were even like, for a guy my size, having my blood pressure at that level was actually really, really good. They would always tell me that. Like, we've done all these tests. There's nothing wrong with you. So I kept getting that over and over again. And so anytime this would happen, I'd want to. So after a while, it becomes even more stressful because I'm trying to fight that feeling of, I got to go to the hospital. I got to go to the emergency room. And my wife was getting pretty fed up with it. You know, I'd be driving. I'd feel that sensation come on in the middle of me driving. And I'd be like, oh man, I just felt it again. And right away I'd see her. She'd just roll her eyes. You gotta go to the emergency room. Like right away. And then of course having that feels even worse.
Yeah, that's definitely something I do want to touch on. Sorry to interrupt, but
no, you're good.
I'm going to do it anyway. So when being a caretaker or somebody that lives with or loves a person with some kind of mental illness or something like that, I do want to talk about that today because that's something that is actually not talked about very much. You hear people talk about their problems and their illness and stuff, but you don't hear much from the people that love those that are experiencing those things and what it does to them. And there's a lot, and I've been doing a lot of research on that lately. So I definitely do want to talk about that. And it sometimes it looks like lack of compassion, like you were saying, you know, with most rolling eyes, but some of it is just not understanding, and then some of it is truly understanding and also just being there to help you cope with it. It's exhausting. Yeah, as a caretaker.
Yeah, well, and the other thing too is my wife deals with her own issues.
Right.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
So I feel you on that one. And that's the thing too. When we are going through that, we're not thinking of the other person at that time, at that moment.
Right.
We're thinking about what's happening.
Or you're not thinking.
Or you're not
You're
thinking.
just
Exactly.
experiencing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes
So-
over you.
Right.
Living in that moment.
Right.
Yeah.
So fast forward, because I don't want to get into the whole story. Fast forward, I one day I finally did go to the emergency room. I finally did get diagnosed with acid reflux. That took a huge weight off of my shoulders, and it was at that point that these attacks subsided significantly.
Yeah.
Now I still had them every once in a while, and that would freak me out. Like, what's going on, right? But yeah. So then, of course, fast forward probably about a couple years ago, I went and I got tested. Turned out I also have an irregular heartbeat, but it's not all the time.
Yeah.
And according to what the doctors say, it's like it's very common. You know,
But you can feel it.
but you can feel it.
Yeah,
And so,
same.
of course, that was the thing. When that would happen, it would trigger the attack
Yeah.
kind of thing. So anyway, so
It's like you can feel it in your ears.
Yeah.
It's so,
Yeah.
like you can feel that skip a beat, and it's just like you feel it pulsate through your entire body
Yes.
and in your head.
that's the exact feeling I feel. And,
I mean, not that I know of it or anything like that.
that's yeah, and just so the most recent since I've had that attack was probably 2 weeks ago. That was the most recent, and that one was triggered from I was watching TV, and for some stupid reason my mind decided to wander, and my mind went into this place of just trying not to get to details because I don't want my mind to go there now.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Self-doubt and different things like that.
No, it was actually
It's everybody's triggers are different,
Yeah.
but they go there, and then your mind just takes over, and we have to develop certain coping mechanisms to pull yourself out of it.
yeah, exactly.
I'll talk about mine in a little bit.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
So anyway, when that happened, it was I had to go to bed, I had to go to sleep, and then this was the first time that it actually really scared me.
Yeah.
Because usually when I go to sleep, I'm good. I can make myself just kind of
Mm-hmm.
crash out, and I'm good. But the quieter it got, the louder my brain got,
Yeah.
and it kept cycling and stuff. Finally, I was able to go to sleep, but this was the first time that this thing had lasted 2 days
Oh,
in a row.
that's exhausting.
Yeah, it lasted 2 days, and it just so happened that second day was when I went to do something musically, and I had to play and stuff. I almost gave away the thing I'm trying to hold, but thankfully, like I said, I got through it. But that's just my thing. So your turn.
All right. Okay. So for those of you that follow me already on Instagram and Facebook, and Michi's World of Chaos is my Instagram, and it's also linked to my Facebook. But I've always been pretty open about my mental illness, which is anxiety, and it's gotten a lot worse over the past, well, just forever. I mean, so I can look back and see depressive episodes as early as junior high and high school, and anxiety and depression are often diagnosed the same because a lot of the symptoms are very similar. So even with anxiety, you'll still have thoughts of suicide and things like that, because it's just like you want things to end, or,
Right.
develop certain coping mechanisms. Like for me, I've learned, like, that's happened over just the past year or a couple months, things have gotten so bad. And, you hear about people that cut, and I'm just straight up, I had started doing that. And it's like your body is so overcome with this feeling. Like my heart was pounding so much, and it's just like I couldn't get out of it. And it's like your body has this carnal need to release that anger that resides within. And just seeing a little blood or feeling that scratch or feeling that stinging on your body can help pull that out. And I actually wrote about that the other day. Did you see my punching bag post?
Yes, I did.
I might actually read that or something. But so and it never dawned on me because I was never a cutter growing up. But I look back, and I've always, like, I love to hit things like the wall and punching bags, and I have a huge gash on my arm, on my hand, like a scar from punching through glass, and it like hurt but felt so good. And I've always punched like punching bags until my knuckles are raw. And people are like, don't you have wraps? I was like, yeah, but I don't want them. I can't.
You have to feel the
I
pain.
need to feel it. And
Right.
and then you feel that release, because And then there's other things like you were saying about laying down. So like this past year, let me go ahead and just say this now, just to put this out there so people keep on listening. Our family is going through a mental health crisis right now. My husband is bipolar, and he is going through a manic phase, which people don't hear much about or talk about. Everybody hears about depression and they talk about depression, suicide, but they don't realize how dangerous the manic phase is.
Can you explain exactly what that means?
Yeah. So we all know depression. You're
Right.
down. The world feels like it's caving in. You're in your dark place, and suicidal thoughts and tendencies and attempts.
Right.
In the manic phase, it's not what people think. It's not like, oh, they're hyper, they're happy, they're excited. It's more of like, it's just as dangerous, but dangerous to others as well as themselves. Versus depression, you're a danger to yourself.
Right.
And in mania, that's why I wish I forgot my book about living with bipolar. But part of it is, people will say they'll go on like benders, like go gambling and like lose everything, or just disappear for days and just do not crazy things, but like their inner inhibitions of things. They just do it and do
Right.
whatever that makes them feel good and not depressed. And,
Okay.
a thing with being bipolar, manipulation and lying, those are big parts of it. And then also just doing things that are wrong, but there's no inner conscience, or it's there, but your body has just been like, yeah, well, I'm not feeling the feels. It's like the opposite. In depression, you're feeling everything. And when you're manic, you're feeling nothing. And so you're doing things to create that feeling of something. And
You're basically covering up the pain.
it kind like your body's doing it,
Right.
right? Or your mind is doing it. And for Daniel, it was brought on it. This is the second big manic phase. And the first time, it was a combination of his depression meds and another medicine that he was on called Cymbalta, which brought him into the manic phase. When you're bipolar, when you're depressed, you need to take antidepressants. So when you start coming out of that, you're supposed to like not be on those and then be on something else. But it's really hard to figure those things out, especially if you don't have a good psychiatrist. And we didn't know that back then. And that Cymbalta just made him crazy. And I remember, and in the manic phase, you're agitated easily, you snap back, you're vacant. Our children have seen it. I've talked to our kids about it, and they see it. But it's one of those things you don't see until you're looking back. You're like, yeah, you weren't there. You weren't you. I'm looking into your eyes, and you are not the person that I know. And it's like, I don't understand why you're doing these things. And then you get hurt as the spouse. And they're like, I'm sorry. And you're like, I don't think you are. They just say the words that you need to hear.
Right.
And deep down, they probably are, but they don't feel it. And it's really hard being the codependent. And that's what I was going to talk about, the codependency.
Mm-hmm.
What that is that of someone that is living with someone that's bipolar, it's actually a term that was more or less created with like being the person that's taking care of an alcoholic,
Right.
or a user or some kind of addict. But those that are bipolar have very similar behaviors as alcoholics, like blame shifting and hiding, lying, just being like intense bouts of anger, and then followed by not remembering it. Things like that. And I'm not saying this to like villainize my husband. If anybody knows him, he's a kind heart, and I've been with him for 10 years. So I wouldn't be with somebody that was a horrible person all the time, but so 10 years ago was his first manic phase, and he actually remembers blacking out, or doesn't remember, but he doesn't remember that towards the end of it, when basically I caught him in some lies and shit hit the fan. So there's my first cuss word. Write it down. Sorry. So things got hard.
Sorry, Apple
I'm
Podcast.
so sorry. Okay. And then he came down almost immediately because he was drinking, and then everything just stopped, and he tore up the house. And anybody 10 years ago, they remember this, he even called the cops on me, which made no sense. And he was, sending these horrible, angry, like text messages and all kinds of stuff. And it was really scary.
Wow.
And he doesn't remember any of it.
Wow.
But his ex-wife and I remember it, because she and I were talking, because when he came down, he was like, take care of the kids. I know you're going to do a good job, because I had sent the kids away because he was acting very odd and scary. And And she's like, Michelle, something's up because he doesn't seem like him. This is not right. And I was like, he would never tell me like take good care of the kids, because Daniel, if you know him, he's like, he's never going to lose his kids. You know, we have custody. And I was like, no, you're right. I'll go over there. And he had tried to kill himself. And so like he came down crashing off of that manic phase and he tried to kill himself. And then slowly but surely we rebuilt our relationship up after that, and through God. And we can talk about that later, about like the spiritual journey on that. But then also trying to get his meds regulated and being in therapy and things. But nothing helped as much as, you know, getting back into the church and just trying to build from the ground up. The problem is that I know that we haven't been consistent with that over the years. So in the past 10 years, if you guys have listened to the other podcasts, you guys go search for those other podcasts.
Yes.
When we talked about the whole baby flood cancer thing, where, you know, we had a newborn. I was going through cancer and our home flooded all at the same time. You know, we've been through some really rough stuff, and you have to just sometimes put all of your things aside and live in your mental illness and just bailing water, and, you know, and you just keep going. And I think recently things have gotten really, you know, kind of to a steady state, but then Daniel's mother died, and then the quarantine and things have just, you know, Daniel's was on that same concoction of horrible meds, and, you know, it hit the fan again. And, but this time even worse. So he went to the hospital, after lots of fighting, and he decided to go to be committed, and he was very mad at me about it and blaming me for it. So what you see him posting on Facebook, like, I've decided to do this, and it wasn't that at all. And and later on he talks about how it wasn't that at all. So when you're dealing with somebody like that, it's like, it's just very difficult. And that's one thing that had happened recently. So let's go back to my anxiety. So the past year I was dealing with a lot of anxiety and depression, and I would sleep a lot or drink a lot. And it's sometimes all you can do to stop the pain that is going through your body is to just lay still in a tight little ball. And I would do that. And Daniel saw it as depression, and him, the way that he dealt with it was he would just leave me alone. And I think that from his perspective, me going through my depression and my anxiety and not working on things, if you can look at it from an outside perspective, and plenty of people have told me this, it's like you've been carrying the weight of this relationship for 10 years. Yeah. And, you know, living with somebody, you're basically, it's like he's just juggling. I use this analogy. It's like he's juggling, you know, glass plates all the time. And then he gets this idea of something. He has a small manic phase, like, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do this. And he starts juggling it and like things, but he starts, and then he just starts to drop them. And my job is to constantly catch them so that I don't have shattered glass on the floor for my kids and everybody to walk on and cut ourselves. Right. And I feel like that's what my life has been like a lot. And it hasn't been that way all the time, but that's one of the things as a codependency, you know, is just you're walking on eggshells, and you're always trying to put the pieces back together so they don't have an episode, so they don't get mad, so they don't yell. Because he wakes up with a clean slate, and he's like, you know, well, there's no reason to rehash the stuff that we went through yesterday. And I was like, yeah, but I never hashed it out. So and so that's one of the problems also as being someone that's codependent, is that we're always on edge, and we snap. I snap. I yell all the time, you know, and he thinks that I yell all the time. And it's like, you don't understand. I'm yelling because you didn't hear me. You didn't hear me yesterday. It's the same conversation, but for you, it's already over with in your mind.
So basically for you, it's like a lot of unfinished business, really. And
yeah, it is. And it's like, one mistake that I think that we've both made is that we haven't kept up with managing his mental illness. It wasn't a priority, and he needed to make it a priority. For the longest time, it was my priority to always make sure. And you've seen it, you know, I run the gym, we both run the gym, but it's like, I'm always on the go, always marketing, always doing the things. This needs to happen, that needs to happen. Same thing with the family. I always have to start things and like, hey, you got to do this, you got to do this. And we seem controlling, and we seem bossy. And these are other, you know, these are traits of codependence. Like, it's textbook. And I read this book that my therapist told me to read called Codependency No More. And I had it on audiobook, and I remember I was like organizing the office at the gym and just doing a bunch of stuff. And I was like, oh crap, I hope people don't see me because I'm crying, you know? And I would break down because I would hear these stories of these women, of the things they were doing. Like, he's coming home again and I have to do this, and I'm pissed off about that. And, you know, and it's like, oh God, this is my life. You know, it's like, You could hear them when the door closes, a deep sigh. He drops his lunchbox, and I'm like, oh my God, what are we going to have to deal with right now? Is this the good Daniel or is this the bad Daniel? And then in his mind, he's probably like, Michelle's going to bitch at me, I know there goes another one. Sorry, write it down. Two cuss words. And it's like,
You might want to put
yeah,
a little.
I'm so sorry. Ugh. But that's what it's like. And it's so hard. And it's like, and I've been battling with my stuff for so long, but I feel so alone. And that's one of the biggest things about being, the one that has to be there for somebody that is up and down or
Isn't
down
it
all the
crazy
time.
that whole alone feeling, but yet we know that there are tons of people that go through this.
Right.
Because I know exactly what you're talking about in this, as far as the sense of feeling alone goes. Because every time I have my little phases or whatever, that's exactly how I feel. Like
You do feel alone, but at the same time, you are alone in
Yeah.
a sense that because nobody can feel that,
Yeah.
and it is so surrounding.
yeah,
It's so just it just engulfs your entire existence. And
Right.
And I've been told this by my therapist, and I was like, I don't think so. She thinks that I have a very good insight into what other people are feeling. Not that I'm empathetic, but I'm a very logical person, and I overthink a lot. I overthink and I analyze and I read and I research, and it's like I try to understand how I feel when I'm at my darkest and when I'm having suicidal thoughts, which there were many when I was going through chemo. There was many when Dan and I are having troubles in our relationship, and just sometimes they're just there. And I think that, this is what Daniel has to deal with all the time. This is his life. And imagine living in that dark place for so long. I mean, he's
Right.
almost 40, or
Right.
he is over 40, sorry. And he's like, you can imagine battling that for so long that you just feel like, I just can't,
Yeah.
And so so I know that I could take a step out of myself, and I would try to see where he's coming from, and I try to encourage him, like, get up, babe, you got to go do this, and he sees me as being mean by telling him what to do. But what I'm trying to do is just keep him on track so that he doesn't go further into it.
Right.
But I know for the most part, I can't pull him out of anything. Sometimes it just has to run its cycle.
So can I ask, why can't you pull him out? Like, I've yet to experience.
I mean, I guess it's almost like you know what? Let's just talk about grief. Let's say, you lose your mother, your grandfather, a loved one. You lose somebody. I lost my husband. People can be there for you, and they've been through it, but they can't stop you from being sad. You can't talk yourself out of it. And there are stages in time, and sometimes it's just time that you just have to work through it or wait for it to go away. And that's, I am there, and it helps to have someone there, because when you don't have someone there, that's when you do kill yourself. And during this quarantine, everybody's been feeling even more isolated, or they're not even feeling, but they were isolated. So the suicide numbers have gone up tremendously. And
I feel like everything's
yeah,
gone
and
up
I was
tremendously.
really worried about Daniel during his, and I was worried about even myself. But at the same time, I think that I've focused so much on trying to pull him up that I just have ignored my own mental health for the longest time. And so what's happened in the past couple months is I started going to a therapist, and she had me read that book, and it was like this light bulb. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing all of these things. Well, what the heck am I going to do to change this? And I was like, I don't know. I can't take care of myself. I've been taking care of him for 10 years and taking care of our children. I don't know how to take care of myself. And that's what everybody right now, they're like, Michelle, you got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of yourself. I was like, I don't know how. I was like, the only thing I know how to do is drink, and right now I can't drink, and because it like makes me sick to my stomach. And it's like, so I've just been filling up on, God, prayers, and cigarettes. Like, it's just like, that's what I got. But, trying to listen to praise and worship music. And it's like, some things just don't make you feel better. But it's like, so when you have two people in a marriage that are both mentally ill, one, his supersedes mine. And so that I've always felt like was the most important to deal with, because I'll be okay. And one of the things about a codependency, another one of the traits and the attributes of that is we're not allowed to have emotions, and we just push those down, because when we have an emotion, the person that we're dealing with, they start to bring on that emotion too. They feel like it's their fault, and then they get mad and they lash out. You're blaming this on me, and then it becomes about them. And that's a fight that Dan and I have often, is that he's like, I try to say something about my feelings, and then he starts about him. It's like, we're talking about me. We're not talking about you. And he's like, oh, it's all about him. Oh. And we start yelling at each other. And it's like, I'm just trying to talk about myself and my feelings right now, and you're just not hearing me. And I think that maybe what I've needed in the past, and I haven't realized this till like literally like a couple days ago, was that I just didn't feel like my emotions were validated. So maybe that's something that we need, is that it just needs to be validated. Okay, I understand that you're feeling that way, and I'm sorry.
Right.
Or I'm not sorry, but I can't do anything about it. But I hear you.
Right.
And I think we just need to be heard, but we also need to just speak up about it. So what had happened was I had shut off my emotions. I had stopped talking. I had just curled up into my little ball for just too long. And that's when things got bad. And I think he saw that as me just not trying anymore.
Right.
In his eyes, our marriage was dead. We were done. And then that's when things got hard.
And in all fairness, I think the big part of that, because I deal with a lot of that in my marriage, and it's kind of that, it's a constant in any relationship, I believe, and that's that we don't know what the other person's thinking.
Right.
And we make up our own stupid little scenarios in our heads.
Yeah.
And in our scenarios, it's much worse than it really is.
Well, sometimes, but I wonder if Daniel has even thought about that, about what's going on in my head. I think that sometimes his mental illness just takes over so much that it's just everything's in his mind right now, and he can't pick out anything.
And see, that's what I mean. In some, like in a relationship like that, where you have someone that has a significant mental illness, that scenario in their head or whatever, way worse, or whatever the case may be. Like in my case, I'm trying to show affection to my wife, and maybe she doesn't reciprocate that, and right away, oh man, she thinks I'm fat, she thinks I'm ugly, she's not attracted to me anymore.
Yeah,
I automatically go to that spot, when in all reality, she's probably just thinking about something else, and is not.
She's like, damn, I miss body pump.
Yeah, or something, yeah, something as simple as that, But yeah, I mean, that's a very good point. Let me ask you this, and this is just, because as you were talking, I was just kind of reminded, the church I used to go to before, we used to, talk a lot about the gospel. And one of the key things that was brought up whenever we were talking about the gospel and what the gospel is talking about mankind as a whole, and how the whole thing started, with Adam and Eve. And there was a phrase that our pastor used to use all the time, and it was, because of what Adam did way back then, our relationship with God is broken. We are broken people.
Yeah.
Right? As a human race, we are broken. And that always just resonated with me, because I always feel like that. Like, I am definitely broken, right? So, like, you were describing a little while ago about, like, Daniel coming home, and, you hear him slam his lunchbox down, like, oh, great, what kind of Daniel are you having? I used to have that as a kid with my father. And here's the crazy thing about it, is that feeling or whatever went into my first marriage.
Yeah.
Like, not just my first marriage, my second marriage. I distinctly remember just getting married to Melissa. We'd been together not even a year. And I remember I had to call in to work sick on this particular day because I was sick. Like, we're talking puking sick. All day I just stayed on the couch and I just watched TV, right? And I'm just chilling. Well, where we used to live, we had a little driveway that was like U-shaped, and you can always hear when a car comes in because of those rocks on the tires and stuff. And I kid you not, I hear her drive up. This is what I did. You ready? I was sitting there watching TV. As soon as I heard those tires, I turned off the TV, threw the remote on the coffee table, jumped up from the couch, went straight to the kitchen, and started to wash dishes.
To make it look like you were doing something.
Right.
Which is what you didn't, yeah.
Which is, as a kid,
yeah,
we'd be watching cartoons. We'd hear Dad pull up, hurry, act like you're cleaning, so he wouldn't yell at us. Or he wouldn't spank us, or he wouldn't do whatever. And when she came in and I was like, oh, I'm sorry, babe, I didn't get a chance to watch. She goes, what are you talking about? You're sick.
Yeah.
Why are you even doing that? Sit. She started, and then I started telling her, well, I didn't want you to think that I would. Why would I think that? Like, right away, she was like asking me these questions.
Right.
It was at that moment I realized, holy crap.
There's some past trauma there that you're bringing into your relationship.
Yes. And it just kind of makes me wonder, is this where these mental issues start for people? Is something that happened as a kid, or some kind of a traumatic experience? You know what I mean?
Not always. I mean, it is a chemical imbalance. There are, and there are things in your brain that are not, I mean, they're physical. Emotions, I mean, just depends. Like we used to talk about this a lot. So like in
Right.
philosophy, we're talking about the physiological, things that go on in your brain with like the synapses and the nerves, and like are emotions just chemicals and signals, or are they real things? I mean, or they just like really just feelings that you feel and coming from nowhere or whatever,
Right.
and if you look at it from that physiological standpoint, that's where the meds come in, is that things are not firing correctly. And that's where, so there's a therapy called EMDR therapy. Don't ask me what it stands for because it's really long. And I was really hoping that Daniel will start this, but I've had friends that told me about it, and therapists are like, this is really good for healing past trauma. So when you have trauma growing up at a young age, or at any time, not even at a young age, there's a break. If you have trauma and you haven't dealt with it and there's a mental illness,
Right.
they're connected, but literally in your brain, they're not connected. They're separated, like physically.
Wow.
There is like that it's not firing correctly. And so what this EMDR does, because your body will separate itself from trauma to survive. And that's
Okay.
where things start happening. Okay, EMDR, eye movement, desensitization and reprocessing. That didn't help. Will, that did not help. Okay, so what EMDR therapy does is like a series of like eye movements, and
Okay.
it's almost like a hypnosis thing, but not. But it brings you back to that trauma, and it reconnects that mental illness and the mental state of the things that you're feeling, and you're not recognizing where it comes from. Even if you do know, this will physically put those back together so that you have the ability to process that trauma. And it's painful, emotionally painful and hard. It puts you back in that trauma. So I can see why if Daniel's hesitant, not want to do it because he doesn't want to relive trauma.
Right.
But the people I've talked to, like it was hard and things got worse before they got better.
Right.
And that's a decision that I'm going to have to make as being the spouse of somebody. Is like, do I want to be with you when things get worse before they get better?
Right.
And I was like, for me, yes, as long as you are willing to do that, I'm willing to be there for you. Whether we're together or divorced, I will be there.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Thank you for censoring yourself.
you saw the F word that was going out. Oh, okay. So that's what EMDR. So there is trauma, and I don't know if there's trauma in my life that has sparked anxiety. I'm not really sure about that. But I do know that I have different things that I'm learning to do to cope with these issues. And one thing for me is just educating myself and understanding my triggers. I know a lot of my triggers right now, and some of those things are out of my control. So I started going to a group called Al-Anon. And what Al-Anon is it's for codependence of alcoholics and users. And I think I might have said that a second ago. But so my meeting, I just had one yesterday, and one of the things and the chants and things like, the serenity prayer of like, God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change.
Right.
And the courage to change the things that I can, and the knowledge to know the difference.
Yeah.
And I'm learning that. I'm saying that prayer all the time because I was like, oh my gosh, that makes more sense. Okay, it's starting to make more sense. And the topic of the Al-Anon meeting the other day was about powerlessness and knowing that you are powerless against somebody else's actions and somebody else's mental illness.
That's a good point.
You are powerless even against your own.
Yeah.
And that is very hard for a codependent because we feel like we're out of control. So we try to control everything.
Right.
And accepting that we are powerless, before you accept it, it feels like, well, everything's going to spin out of control and things are only going to get worse. I can't anymore.
Right.
And that's when I have suicidal thoughts and all of those things. I can't control anything anymore. I just can't be here. I just
Right.
can't be alive anymore. But understanding the powerlessness and accepting that, as another woman said, is that there is a freedom in that. There is a freedom in knowing that you cannot change somebody else's behavior. Just like when I told you I'm always trying to like rearrange the world so Daniel can get his workouts in or do the things that he needs to do, rearrange the world so that he can train his clients. So, and I will sacrifice, I've sacrificed jobs.
Yeah.
Like my dreams, I've sacrificed jobs. I've sacrificed my own personal time, all these things so that he wouldn't fall. But
Right.
I've had to understand and learn that I am powerless against that. And that is not my job, my responsibility. It is my responsibility as a wife to be there for him
Right.
through all of it. But I can't fix him or change
Exactly.
him. And that was a big thing. And so going to these meetings, it's very, it's not necessarily medical, but it is it has helped me more than anything throughout this crisis that we're going through right now as a family. I've been to therapy. I've had, not Xanax. What's it called? Some anti-anxiety stuff I was taking for a little bit. I've been prescribed Xanax before to get me out of that hyper anxious state so that I can take care of things, or even alcohol or whatever.
Right.
And it's like they just pacify. And it's like, but going to this, it gives you actual physical steps. So anybody out there that is dealing with, somebody in your life that is an alcoholic or a user of any sort or bipolar or something, there are groups out there. There's a support group called NAMI, the NAMI, National Alliance of Mental Illness. There is a group in San Marcos that you can go to. I call it my bipolar support group. And it's for caretakers of those that are mentally ill and the mentally ill to be in there together. And they kind of meet like an AA meeting.
Right.
But it's very eye-opening to see some of the things that people go through and deal with, and you don't feel like, okay, am I a failure if I walk out on this? Am I a failure if I, forgive past hurts and keep going and stay with this person? This person hurts me all the time. Is it dumb for me to stay? And then there's the Christian aspect of it. I'm going to go ahead and go there.
Yeah,
Should I go
that's
there?
fine.
Okay,
That's
because I knew you were
perfect.
going to
Yeah.
ask me that.
Yeah.
So there's the Christian aspect, like we go to church, but we're going through the motions for a while. And so lately, also with the powerlessness, that's part of Al-Anon. It is kind of, spiritually based, is that you realize that you don't have power and you don't have control, but there is one person that does.
Right.
And it's God. And I'm trying to, I feel so empty and so alone, but God is the only thing that's going to be able to fill me up. And it's like, I need my husband there and I want my husband, but I look into his vacant eyes and he's not there. Be it meds, be it manic phase, be it depression. He looks at me and it's not the person that I married 10 years ago. And it's like, he's in there, but I don't see him.
Right.
And he doesn't see me.
Right.
And it's like, so I'm learning that God is the only thing that is what I need to lean on right now. And God, and God's got me,
Yeah.
and it's like, when is someone going to carry me? And I heard God, he's like, girl, I'm carrying you, I've been, like that's what's going on. So devotionals and stuff, I've been reading them and I've just been diving in, but lately, honestly, it's not helping, and I think my pride and my arrogance and my stress, and I'm just like, I can't, I'm praying and I'm doing this like prayer group that's called, Prayers for Your Husband. And it's like,
Right.
rolling my eyes and it getting pissed mad, and I'm just like, I hate this, and it's like, but then I pray and then I go into the kitchen and I was like, I love you and I'm sorry that we're going through, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, wait, why am I apologizing? I didn't do anything wrong,
Yeah.
and it's like, and then, but also accepting that, yeah, I have built this bed and we're living in it, also like,
Yeah.
that's probably a weird analogy. Whatever. You made your bed, lay in it. That's
Yeah,
where
yeah,
I was
yeah.
going.
That's where you're
Whatever.
going.
That's where I was going. I was
you
built this bed. But it's like, I shut off. I shut down when my anxiety and depression were so bad and I wasn't getting mental help.
Right.
And but one of the things I was taught to do was to put up boundaries and not to let somebody else's emotions take over me. And so I was doing that, but in his eyes, those boundaries were me pushing him away and building up a wall.
Right.
But it's a different type of boundary. So it's like, it's very hard for anyone with mental illness. It is lonely
Yeah.
and you're not alone at the same time. It's,
Yeah.
I wish I had better answers.
Yeah. So you brought up the spiritual aspect, of this, which is definitely where I do want to go next. But before we get into that, we're going to take a short little break here because we got to give our sponsors their just due to be able to say what they need to say so we can pay the bills up in this place. So we'll be right back with more with Michelle Haggerty here in just a moment.
Do you own your own business? Are you looking for a platform where you can advertise and just get more people to come through your door? Well, look no further than the What's on My Mind podcast. In case you didn't know, the What's on My Mind podcast is probably one of the fastest growing podcasts out there today. Our audience is not just local, but worldwide. Our numbers in the local market seem to go up every single week. These are people that can be walking in through the doors of your establishment. All you have to do is contact us at WOMMpodcast@gmail.com. That's WOMMpodcast@gmail.com. Use our platform as your platform to get your business out there for people to notice you. Again, contact us at WOMMpodcast@gmail.com. All you got to do is contact us. We'll contact you back, and we will make this thing happen. Help us to help you. What's on My Mind podcast? That's the place to do your advertising to get your business out there. We're looking forward to hearing from you.
Are you wanting to grow your business on social media in 2020, but you don't know where to start? Maybe you want to reach a bigger audience or build a following, but you've hit a wall and you want to find how to take your business to that next level? If you need help figuring out how often you need to post, when to post, what to say, and how to schedule your content, then contact Enid Jones, the Social Mermaid. Enid is a professional photographer and social media strategist who will help you move your business forward into 2020 with a practical and realistic approach for growth. For testimonials, reviews, and more, find her on Facebook under Enid Jones Photography or Instagram at pix.by.enid. That's pix.by.enid. You can also check out What's on My Mind's very own Facebook and Instagram pages to see Enid's work in action. That's right, we are proud customers of the Social Mermaid and have already seen amazing results. Connect with Enid today so she can do the same for you.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Rob T, from What's on My Mind. Listen, we're about to start the podcast. Before we do, I just wanted to say a few words about our awesome sponsor, Metroflex Gym San Marcos. We've been pumping them like crazy on the show, and there's a reason for that. You see, it was a few years ago, it's probably about 5 or 6 years ago, I first stepped into Metroflex. I got to meet the owners, Daniel and Michelle Haggerty, and let me tell you something. Just them alone makes the very reason why I go to this gym. Back at that time, I was at my heaviest at 465 pounds. Yeah, pretty heavy, I know. Anyway, I walked into the gym. I talked to Daniel and told Daniel exactly what was going on with me at the time. I had some health issues and things like that. And he wasn't interested about, the money. He was interested more in me and my health. And I will never, ever forget that. So, it's for that reason alone that I still continue to go to Metroflex. This is about 6 years ago. Now, since then, I've had, fluctuations, of course, as we all do. But the one thing that I love is that these guys don't give up on me. They don't call me a quitter. They don't press me or anything, but they definitely motivate me. If you are looking for a gym that is going to look at you and care for you like family, I'm telling you, you've got to go to Metroflex Gym San Marcos. If you're in the San Marcos area, it could be Kyle, Buda, could be New Braunfels. You're not that far away. Metroflex Gym is really not that far away. Look, the address, it's really simple. It's 2101 Clovis Barker Road, San Marcos, Texas, 78666. That's Highway 123, like you're going to Seguin. It's not that far. Okay, look, if you want more information, look them up online, www.metroflexsanmarcos.com, or give them a call, 512-878-8575. Metroflex Gym. They care for you like family, but also it is the hardcore place to get back in shape. Don't forget, Metroflex Gym. And we're back. But before we get back into our discussion, I've got to do it again like I do with every podcast. Give a shout out to Silver Spoon Dinner Theater. Will, I was there.
You were one.
Yeah, I was there Saturday, man, and had a delicious meal. We met some friends of ours there, and they've been telling me, it's funny because they've been saying, you've been talking about this place like for so long. We wanted to try it out. You guys available for dinner? Like, yeah, you know what? Let's do it. So we went. My wife and I, we had dinner with our friends, and they absolutely loved it. One of them got the filet mignon on the Himalayan salt block. Yeah, I did too, actually. And it was a great dinner, and just like I've always said, there was nothing on that menu that is not good, and I told that to my friends as well. So for y'all that are listening, I'm telling y'all the same thing. There is nothing on that menu that is not good. Whatever you order, it's going to be out of this world. That is Silver Spoon Dinner Theater. They're located at 6700 North I-35 in Braunfels, Texas. That's basically at the Texas Ski Ranch, okay? You can't miss it. Their phone number is 210-865-3711. You can go online to www.silverspoon.com. That's SYLVERSPOON.com. You can also email them at silver, that's SYLVER, at silverspoon.com. Make sure you let them know that the guys from What's on My Mind podcast sent you. Big Will and Rob T. Trust me, they'll know who you're talking about. They started last weekend a brand new spanking new play, brand spanking new. And they started it last weekend. It's going to be running till the end of July. So you guys got to go out and see it. That's on the weekends, Fridays and Saturday nights. You can go have a great, awesome meal and at the same time watch an awesome show, okay? So that's Silver Spoon Dinner Theater. Look them up. All right, and we're back, and we've been talking to Michelle Haggerty. We're talking about mental illness, how it affects people, especially those that have to take care of a loved one, be it a husband, be it a parent, whatever it may be. Talking a lot about codependency. But one place I wanted to go with this discussion, and you did a great segue to it, and it's a spiritual aspect. Everybody knows we're a Christian, podcast. We talk about God a lot. Sometimes you wouldn't know it when Michelle's on the show because she cusses like a sailor, but that's okay.
Hey. Was there's a log coming out of your eyes? Don't leave my speck alone.
Anyway, no, but we talk about God, and I know you believe in God and you love God and everything.
Yeah.
So I grew up in a Pentecostal church background. Now, for those that don't know, Pentecostals are very spiritual, okay?
Snake charmers.
Very, wait, not snake charmers. We didn't go that far,
Snake
bro.
handlers.
They're very, they have a strong belief in the supernatural. Now, I don't discredit that because to believe in God, to me, you need to believe in the supernatural, okay? But here's the thing. In a straight up Pentecostal world, all right? And I'm speaking this from experience, okay? And if you're Pentecostal and you listen to this, if you have a disagreement, feel free to email us. Anyway, Womp at Gmail. Yeah, that's right. But in a Pentecostal's mindset of mental illness, there's no such thing.
Okay.
In a Pentecostal's mindset, it's all spiritual, meaning this, that if you have these issues, you're
Right.
dealing with some kind of spirit or some kind of demon. Exactly.
Yeah.
And here's where I come into conflict with that because I understand that way of thinking, and I do understand to a certain extent that there is some truth behind it.
Yeah.
But being an adult and going through the things that I go through and going through the things that my mind goes through,
Yeah.
I find that way of looking at it to be a little difficult, not just biased. I think it's
A little one-sided.
yes, one-sided, but I think it's dismissive.
Yeah.
You
that's
know what
a
I'm
good
saying?
point. Yeah.
I can see that. I can also see
Yeah.
it as maybe it's more along. They see it more as a classification of your walk.
Yes, yeah, and
So-
that's the other thing
Well,
that gets
no,
to me.
I mean,
Right, then that means
if you
haven't-
are walking right, the devil's working harder to go after you because if you suck as a person and you're
Right.
not following God, the demons and the devil are not coming after
Right.
you. So continue what you're saying and I'll give you
Yeah,
mine.
so basically, my point is like I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. Well, the other thought in this is that they think that if you are suffering from these kinds of things, you somehow open that door for that
Yeah.
evil spirit to come into you.
Sounds
And that's-
Catholic.
and that's where I have an issue with that.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing: I didn't ask to be mentally abused growing up. I didn't
Right.
ask to be emotionally abused growing up. So how the heck did I open that door?
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's
Like the sins of the father.
right.
I can give you the answer that a Pentecostal person was going to tell you.
Go for
Okay.
it. Give it to me.
So
I'm curious.
here's the answer they would have said.
Right.
So if you did what you just said,
Right.
the sins of your father, so on and so forth.
Right. Generational curse.
The generational curse thing.
Yeah.
So what the mindset of the Pentecostal belief is you haven't forgiven that person
Right.
for actually doing those things to you. So because
Well,
you haven't
hey, we
forgiven
can
them-
tie that back to actually the EMDR of relating that personal childhood trauma to
Yeah, but here's the thing,
recognizing
though.
it. But that you tie those two together and you figure that out.
Right,
But I mean,
but-
I'm not. I'm just that's just me
No, I get
piecing
you.
it together.
I get you. But here's the thing, though.
Physiologically, anyway.
Speaking just from my personal stuff, I have forgiven.
Have you?
Right? No,
Well,
I
Both of
have.
us are like, yeah.
There's a
When
deep
did I get
down-
put on the couch?
Oh, you're talking right now. We're looking at you.
So there's a deep down understanding. So there's a testimony this brother has. His name
Right.
is Brian Trejo.
Right.
So he's a twin. So his brother was murdered in the street.
Oh, wow.
So this guy forgave the murderers who killed his brother. Like he literally forgave them.
Right.
Yeah.
He's gone around and he's received inner peace and peace
Right.
with Christ, and he no longer lives with that hesitant mindset.
Right, right.
Because he's given a true forgiveness. That's the type of forgiveness that they're referring to.
I understand.
Because if you don't give that.
If you're
true
harboring the hatred,
understanding
yeah.
of it, you don't release it. That's the part, because you have to forgive it and you have to forget it.
See, and that's
Yeah.
the thing. But see, here's the thing, and this is what I would say now. Maybe not back then,
Yeah,
but this
go
is
ahead.
what I would say now to that person. You're full of it, man. And this is why I say that, because and I'll say it out. My dad messed me up growing up.
Yeah.
You know, but man, I've forgiven him. I love that man. Him and I have a great relationship now, right? So hypothetically, or however you want to call it, I should be good. We should be fine. But yeah, why is it that I still 2 times a month maybe have a dream where I'm getting yelled at and getting
Yeah.
told that I'm nothing still? Why does that still happen? See, that's where I kind of find that.
The
Right.
line you have.
That's the line
Yeah.
I have. That's where I think, like, I don't think it's all about you have this demon of anger in you.
Yeah, I
you
think
know?
that it's both. I mean, like, God put medicine on this earth for a reason, I mean,
But Michelle, there are those that would come back and would say
I know.
that medicine, pharma being, I think Micah said it when he was
last
there,
time.
that the base word for pharma, it actually means witchcraft if you take it back. Right?
Yeah.
There are those, I'm just saying, there are those.
I don't know if you guys can hear my eyes rolling.
I can hear him. I wasn't even looking at it. Turn my head.
But I'm just saying, there are
Yeah.
those that would say that.
Well, whatever.
Wait,
I love that was a great answer.
I mean, okay, God, let's just say there's not medicine.
Right.
God has put the tools to help ourselves here, be it from the earth or not. Because, people will take that pharma, like, oh, well, it's from the earth, it's weed, so smoke weed, your depression
Yeah.
and anxiety are gone, and it's like, no, it's not that simple. So, like I was saying, I was praying and I felt like I couldn't. It just wasn't working. I couldn't process and I couldn't forgive. And I'm not at the point of forgiving things yet.
Right. Because it is a process.
It's a process.
Yeah.
And it's like, but when it happens, it clicks, I guess. I don't know. Whatever. I mean, I've forgiven past problems.
Right.
And that's how we were able to move on from it 10 years ago. But that's seeing, and I had to do that based off of myself and not based just on his actions.
Mm-hmm.
So that, okay, prove to me that you deserve to be forgiven. And that's where I was.
Right.
And I had to let that go. But I think, so when I say my friend, she used this analogy a long time ago, there was, that story of the guy, or she's like, oh God, I guess I can't even go. It involves a cuss word, so I won't even go there. I mean,
I think we need to put
Okay.
a
Here we go.
disclaimer before
This
we
is
do
this is
podcast.
this is the analogy.
Yeah.
And it was a long time ago doing something, about helping yourself, right?
Right.
And she's like, it's like you're sitting out in the middle of the pond and you're out there and you're like, God, bring me to shore. Come on, are you gonna help me out here? And he's like, I gave you some oars. Now row your butt to shore.
Right.
Use the freaking roars.
Yeah.
Oars.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. See, if I'm trying not to
okay.
cuss, I can't even get it right. So-
I've heard that same analogy.
So
but-
there's similar ones,
Yes,
like there's people that
yes.
are drowning and he's like, I sent you 3 boats. And you're like,
Exactly.
oh, you're like, no, thanks. God will save me. And he's like, but
Exactly.
I sent you 3 boats. I sent you the help. Right.
Right.
But this analogy was that, she was like, God put you, you were there in that boat and you're telling God to save you, but he's given you the ability to get to the other side, and it's like, so I feel that there are tools that have been put into my life, be it medicine, be it therapy, this, the Al-Anon meetings that I'm going to, those I felt like, man, it just struck a chord and it just made sense to give me the practical applications that God has been trying to tell me to do, like you do this and do that. But to hear them say you are powerless, but
Yeah.
in a positive connotation. Because when I think in my head, I'm powerless, that's negative. I suck. I can't do anything.
Right.
Whatever. Woe is me. But then when they were like, you're powerless, own it. And I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which is what you hear in Christianity too. You don't have control, give it to God.
Right.
But in understanding that being powerless was a weight off my chest. And just in 2 days, I'm like, okay, it's making more sense. I'm more receptive to God now. Because sometimes getting beaten over the head with the Bible and read the scripture, watch this video, do this, and and it's like they're helpful, but they're not. It's like I'm going through the motions. But sometimes God's got to come at you at another angle so that you can listen because you're so closed off from some things.
Yeah.
And so it's like, but when it comes to medicine and the therapy, I think that those are just another example of the oars that God put you out there in that boat with. It's like, use it.
Yeah, well, I think another good point is I think a lot of people have this misconception that when you do these certain things, when you pray this prayer, you know, go to this, they think God comes and just says, "Okay, I took it away, it's gone." And
But
that's
he
not-
does, though. I mean, honest to God, I believe that he does do stuff like that.
No, but
it doesn't mean that he does it every time. But I
Right.
do believe in miracles, and I do believe that God can heal from things.
For sure.
Yeah.
I definitely don't dispute that at all. But what I'm saying is that there's a lot of people that think that that's going to happen in every sense, when in actuality, I've used this, you were talking about analogies. I use this analogy so many times with people, is that God will allow you to go through the stuff that you're going through, giving you those tools like you're talking about for a reason, because there is growth that is going to come from it. I always use the analogy of the seed. When you plant the seed in the ground, what happens underground? Nobody sees what happens, but what actually happens is when you water it and you give it the sunlight that it needs, that pressure from the ground causes the seed to break.
Yeah, and then somebody catches that freaking tree on fire and it's down. But then you know what? It'll grow back stronger. So in my case of that fire, you know, and it's like,
Thanks for that.
it's a good analogy. Roll with it.
I'm rolling with it.
Because yeah, all that pressure and it still goes, and you're like,
Right.
all right, I'm good. I'm in
Yeah.
God's light. I can see the sunshine, and then floods.
Right.
You know, and like, you know,
Right.
and it's like there's always something.
Right.
You know, and
Yeah,
it's
of course.
and back to the thing, like, oh, that's the devil in you that's causing these things. Maybe not, you know, but it's like I do feel like with praying sometimes, like I can just feel the darkness just trying to come at me because, and it's like when I'm thinking of the things that are causing my anxiety attack, like I was having in the car a second ago or the past 2 days, you know, like when I came here and I sat down, I was almost blacking out. I was so stressed
Wow.
out. I was so stressed out and so much anxiety and just trying to calm myself so that I can talk.
I will say this: your demeanor, your appearance was very different from the last time you were here. Very different.
It's, yeah.
Well, it was different when it's different now than when you were here with Christopher and Ryan.
Yeah. I'm very sad right now.
Yeah.
I'm having a very hard time.
Yeah.
And,
But having said that, I just want to say thank you for being here. I really do
yeah, I
appreciate
mean, I tried getting out of this so many times.
I know.
And it's like, that's where I was like, I don't need to do it. I need to do it because it's going to be bad and detrimental to the situation that we're in. We are in a crisis. We are literally in a crisis situation right now. And I do not need to do this. I will
Right.
say some things that are going to be mad and shoot my mouth off. And I'm not, but yet, I don't know. But,
You won't.
and it's, no, I won't.
Yeah, we
and,
got you.
and it's like,
Edit that out.
but we live such public lives and it's so frustrating and it's like I just want to sink into a hole and it's like I don't want to do it. I tried getting out of it. I don't know how many times.
Yeah.
But God more than once has used my crappy trauma of crap that just keeps happening to me. And it's like, am I too loud? Okay.
No,
like
no,
just
you're
stuff
good.
that happens to me. And it's like, but it's helped others. So sometimes you're going through that, but your struggle with that and your openness is going to help pull somebody else out.
Right.
You never know why you're going through what you did. And it's like sometimes, you know, like, oh God, I've even told you about this last time. Like, I've been compared to the story Job before.
Yes.
Last time. And I was like, oh my God, what else? You know what? I don't want to know what else. Well, you know what? What else happened?
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, God, and you know what? I'm like, oh, can this be that? Can that be done now? And you know what? We're going to get through this, but something else might happen again. And I can't have this.
Especially this year.
Good Lord. I know. And it's like,
2020, baby.
there's always something. And it's like, but I feel like that I'm starting to write a book, you know? And cause I feel like people are like, man, you need to write a book because you've been through some stuff. And I was like, everybody's been through them stuff. They're like, yeah, but not like yours. Like yours sounds made up. Like my life sounds fictional, doesn't it? Y'all listen to that podcast. I can't remember what number it was. I texted it somebody earlier, but it's on there. And
Yeah.
it does. It sounds made up. And it's like, am I bringing this on myself? Let's go back to that Pentecostal
Right,
thing. It's
right.
like, what did I do
Right.
that is making me like this?
Right.
And one thing that I know that I am doing is I'm letting it.
You know, sorry to interrupt, but you know what comes to my mind is, you know, the farther away we get from God, the harder life becomes.
Yeah, that's definitely happened in our situation.
So the closer you bring the whole situation to God, the closer you just throw up your hands and say, I'm done. It's you, right?
Yeah.
You just mentioned that a few minutes ago. You know, it changes the mindset of yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and if you think about it, you know, granted, I was here for a lot of the stories that we've interviewed you on the show about, and
Yeah.
they were all great. You know, they're all great. And if you haven't listened to it, why not? You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Why haven't you listened to it?
Yeah, those are great.
They're
podcasts.
enter-
Good
entertaining.
podcast, you know. But the thing is that you think of it this direction is me myself. So obviously, before I came to Christ, again, I was battling with addiction. I was sitting there. I was an alcoholic. I was doing drugs, and I remember distinctively. I almost committed suicide in the same room. You know, and it's funny because what.
We're all like, what were you gonna?
Well, I'm sitting at right now.
I was like,
Okay.
So here, I'll show you. I had a knife.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. It's still there.
Still
Yeah.
there.
Well.
But you realize though, what I've learned in my whole in everything I've gone through, and I really wasn't planning to speak a lot today because I'm dealing with a major toothache right now.
Yeah.
And and you realize this though is the problems you're going through is it's a problem that we've started. We've lacked the faith
Yeah.
in Christ to say, you know what, this is what this is, God. I need you to give me the strength. And in everything we try to substitute around it.
Yeah.
So I'll be honest with you, about 5 months ago is, I went through some things mentally and I put myself in a bad situation mentally. And I felt like I was back at square one.
Yeah.
I haven't drank in about 3.5 years. This will be my 4th year. I haven't touched drugs, but I put myself in a position to where I shouldn't have. And I was just sitting there like, I'm done. I'm just done.
Yeah.
This is it. But then every time I say this is it, I just kept hearing the voice. You got to go one more round.
Yeah.
You got to go one more round. And you have to realize is that voice I keep hearing, well, obviously it's the Holy Spirit guiding me and directing me. But you have to realize is we put ourselves in situations that, yes, they're given to us by God because He allows you free choice. He's not going to sit there and force you to say, hey, you know what, do it this way and it's done.
Yeah.
You have to learn from that experience. You have to grow from that experience. You have to see, I was in this mindset here, but now God, I need you to put me in this mindset over here. So
Yeah.
I can get out of this. And what's going on in your life, I really don't know a lot of the situation that's going on. And honestly, it's not my place to know.
Yeah.
But I would tell you this much is that where you're at, if you would stop and just think, and if Daniel would stop and just think, and just keep doing what you're doing, just start reading the Bible, start focusing, just, start taking away some of the little niches that take you away from where you need to be centered.
Well, I'm going to interrupt. Okay. So yes, that sounds great. And I understand that. And that's the problem with mental illness. You can't just stop and think about it.
You actually know what you need to do, but
And you just
that's the battle.
can't. And that's why I know that like when I was having an anxiety attack one night, it was so bad. And I laid there and I was like, I didn't have any tears left. And I just started praying and I was saying, someone's like, just say Jesus. And I'm always timid. I was like, I don't want to be like, I'm like, Jesus. Jesus. And I have friends who are like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus. And I'm like, Jesus, but I was literally just whispering it because God could hear me. I was like, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. I don't know what else to say. Jesus, Jesus. And I was praying and there was that song that I think it's by Oceans. I don't know. Jesus. I don't know that song. I'm not going to sing. I'm not going to sing. Not unless I'm drinking and it's karaoke.
I think you're talking about Tremble.
There we go.
Jesus,
Yes, that one.
Jesus,
And it's like, that was in my head
you
and I just
make
kept
the
saying it.
darkness tremble.
Yes. And that song, it's like, I could feel my breath calming down and also like the heart attack thing. Like I swear I was having heart attacks, but my blood pressure is actually really low. And, but also your body is like pumping up extra, like your pulse is going high because it's trying to compensate for the low blood pressure. So that's why I was feeling that.
Right.
But then also I'm like, okay, well, because I had hysterectomy and I don't have estrogen, I have a higher chance of having a heart attack because I, had a hysterectomy before the age of 40 or 30 something. And so I have a higher chance of having a heart attack and I started smoking. So it's like, okay, so I'm going to have a heart attack. I'm going to have a heart attack. I'm having a freaking heart attack, and it's like these things. And I understand what you're saying about praying and like, as long as you just do it. And it's like, yes, but that's where sometimes you're just so deep down dark. There is no light and there's no point, and and it's like but I do understand that going through the motions, because at that point I was just saying Jesus and I wasn't feeling it. I just said it and I just kept saying it. But that's also where it comes to us being those that we love the person that has hurt us or that is going through something, to pray for them.
Right.
And to keep praying for them, because they will feel that and God will work.
Yeah.
But God, and even if you're mad at this person,
Yeah.
like, even if you are like, man, this freaking lied to me. I don't even want to talk to him. He's like, don't talk to him. Then pray for him, and it's like, and as much as I hate it, like the sins are all equal, even though you want to think one sin is worse than another, you know, and it's like we're all sinning against each other, and the mental illness is causing us to do things. I mean, there comes a point where you can only blame your mental illness for so much.
True.
Because like, your mental illness may have done it, but what were you doing to stop and to maintain your mental illness?
True.
What were you doing to watch for those triggers?
Exactly.
But I have to think about that in myself as well. Like, what the heck was I doing? And I was just letting it take over.
Yeah.
Because it's, that's one thing that people don't talk about. Sometimes it just feels good to be in your dark place.
That's true.
Yeah.
It feels good to be dark, and it's like that's why we listen to so much sappy music.
The reason it does feel good is because at the root of sin, just in general, sin is the thing that separates us from God at the very beginning. That disobedience, that rebelliousness that Adam did, that was sin. And at the root of sin, it's all self. That's the root of sin.
Yeah.
It's about pleasing self. And as much as we may complain about our dark place and about being in our dark place, we yet use that to get you poor thing. And again, it's about self.
Well, sometimes. I mean, I don't think that, like, I know that my anxiety is not like a poor thing, but sometimes it looks that way. Like, I feel like Daniel looks that way. It's like, you just want attention from everybody on Facebook. You're just going to go ahead and make a post like that.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's true.
and he gets mad at me and he's like, that's not what I'm doing. I was like, well, why don't you say that to me?
Yeah.
Why don't you talk to your wife about this?
Yeah.
Instead of talk to the world about it.
Yeah.
But it's like, it is what it is. And I have to deal with that. But it is a self thing.
True.
And
well, I mean, that's what Facebook is in general.
Freaking hate.
Yeah. It's
social
just,
media. If I were not a business owner, I would be done with it.
Yeah.
Because you see the light and shiny happy things that people are posting. And then sometimes you're like, oh, you're being so real and so honest out there that, like, Michelle, I just love it so much that you're being so honest. Like, I am being honest, but I'm not being as honest as I really am. And if I showed you all my ugly, would you still be there for me?
That's a good point.
And I think that, I was like, and I will show my ugly privately, and that's why I made that post, because Daniel made a post about going into the loony bin, and I was pissed. And I was just like, you making jokes about this right now? And he's like, what? And he was in his manic phase, and he's still in his manic phase a little bit. I mean, or a lot. I don't know. Again,
it's so
I can't control this,
Yeah.
but he's working on his meds, but he went to the VA hospital, and this is what sucks about the healthcare system and the military, like he went to, the hospital, and he was out in a couple of days, and people were like, that was fast. And it's like, well, they're under crisis control situation right now. And he was self-admitted technically, because he wasn't a harm to himself. And that's the problem with mania, is that if you're depressed and you're a harm to yourself, like, oh my God, he's depressed, we got to keep him in, we got to take him in. But in their manic, they're not like, I'm not going to try to kill myself, I'm going to do all this stuff. But you don't realize that is just as dangerous in a different way. But it's harder to see, and it's harder to even like gauge.
Right.
And so him being in the hospital, like in the VA, you're like, oh, they lock you up for 30 days and then you're going to do all this intensive therapy and counseling and all this stuff. Because of COVID, they're not doing that. They're just sending you on your way. And then they're doing all these voice, like you're talking to a doctor on the phone. You can hardly understand when it breaks in and out. So it's like, that's not helping.
Yeah.
And I mean, it kind of is and it kind of isn't. And it's like a hurry up and wait thing. Like we're like, okay, call, make this appointment. Okay, well, we'll get you in 3 weeks. And it's not helping his situation right now.
Right.
And he's not in the mental capacity to be, to really advocate for himself like he should. And that's where I always want to come in.
Right.
But that's hard to do with the military if you've ever had to deal with them. And I've had to deal with them my entire life.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I'm not saying that just those couple days weren't important, because they were very important. And he made a lot of progress just in like 3 or 4 days. But the fact of the matter is, it's a lifelong journey.
Yeah.
You know, I had another point, but I forgot what it was.
That's okay. That's okay. And when besides, I know we need to wind down anyway because you have to get going here soon. So
I do. I got to pick up kids.
yeah.
But,
So to just kind of wind down, I think it would be great if you would kind of again give the resources that you gave.
Okay.
For anybody that is looking for any kind of help, maybe they are looking to be a part of a support group or something like that. Anything that might help someone listening right now dealing with what it is that you're going through right now, if you wouldn't mind giving that, or maybe they could even contact you on your social media.
Yeah,
and
you can always contact me. My Instagram is Michi. It's MICHI_World of Chaos. That's my Instagram. I'm trying to, you can find me on Facebook, but I don't really friend a lot of people anymore that I don't know personally. So I'm kind of starting to lean towards Instagram now, especially because there was just a lot of stuff that went on Facebook and I'm just like over it. So so find me on Instagram, and I have an art page on there and all that stuff is there. So you can contact me through any of them. But, well, first of all, the book that I was reading was called Codependency No More. And it really was a lot of insight. So if you're living with somebody that's an alcoholic, and just, alcoholism is actually not necessarily, it is a disease, but a lot of the time, that is just a symptom of an underlying mental illness. So that's why bipolar codependents, such as myself, relate very similarly. And Daniel, I believe, is, has traits of an addict. I mean, he's been an addict before, and we'll talk about that another day. But so Codependency No More is the book, and then Al-Anon, so AL and then a dash ANON, Al-Anon meetings. It's for people that live with alcoholics or have lived with them, living. The alcoholic is an alcoholic or recovering or still in it. And that's what was really great about that meeting, is that people are living with alcoholics and people that still hurt them every single day. But it's about learning how to live in that situation, because just because somebody's an alcoholic, somebody's bipolar, somebody hurts you constantly, it doesn't mean that you don't love them. And it's really hard. It's like, I don't want 2 dead husbands. Yeah. That would really suck. And I really don't want that right now. So again, 2 dead husbands, listen to the other podcasts. So that's Al-Anon. And then the other, NAMI, NAMI, National Alliance for Mental Illness. And that's all over. All of these things are all over the United States. And what's one good thing about the COVID right now is that people actually aren't meeting in person, that you can just jump in on
a meeting or something.
You can jump in on an Al-Anon meeting almost anywhere at any time, and I'll find other links if people ask you, and cool. There's other links that you can go to. There's other like codependency, I'm sure there's like things for people that have anxiety and stuff like that. So there are things going on every single day that you can just jump on Zoom, so that you can, if anything, if you don't want to heal or don't want to heal so much, but if you could always just educate yourself and just listen, Yeah.
Cool. Well, again, thank you so much for doing this podcast. I know you're going through a really rough time right now, and I know you only did it because of the love we have.
I love you guys. I love you, Rob, so much. You're lucky. I mean, it was so hard to come here today. It was so hard to just, I literally texted you, I don't think I'm in an emotional capacity to do this podcast right now. And you're like, okay, I'm going to come up with a plan B. Well, let me know. I was like, all right, well, if you don't have somebody to come in, then I'll do it. And I'm over here like, dear God, please help him find somebody. and then I was like, well, if God wants me here, then he'll make it happen. And then I was like, I don't know, I'm going to get here at 6:30. That's a really rough time. And then they're like, you want to meet earlier? I was like, I literally just had the boys in daycare to get. So God just, parted, and he made a way, and I was just hoping that God was going to guide my words, and he did. Yeah,
I think everything you said was awesome, very informative, and it was definitely.
And there was only like 4 cuss words.
Yeah, not bad.
I know.
Not bad. But thank you again so much for doing this. We really do appreciate it.
Yeah.
And this is just the tip of the iceberg. We're going to be diving in more into this subject. As a matter of fact, I want to say real quick, next week you'll want to tune in because we are going to have Cody Schilling as a guest. He's actually a waiter over at Silver Spoon. And that's actually where I met him. He's a great guy. And he actually, his thing is he dealt with suicide. Which, people with mental illness and what's that word I'm looking for?
Depression.
Depression, and of course trauma, PTSD.
Yeah.
Have dealt with suicide, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he is a veteran, and there's a lot of veterans, unfortunately, that have PTSD.
And
And
said last week that number's skyrocketing right now.
yeah, for the suicides. So he's gonna talk about that topic coming in. And what he's found to help him deal with his issues and his and for his mental health, and it's skydiving. So he's also going to talk a little bit about that. So that's going to be next week. But again, Michelle, thank you so much for being here. We really, really appreciate it. We really hope that this is really talking to you guys out there, and that it helps you in your situation. And if you have any questions, you can always contact us on our social medias, and you can also email us at whompodcast@gmail.com, and we're always here for you. So just
WOM. Okay.
Yeah. What's on my mind?
Yeah, I like that. I was like,
Yeah.
Okay.
So just hit us up, and we'll definitely talk. Hey, if you want a sticker, hit us up, man. We got tons of stickers we need to give away and stuff too. So anyway, but thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you next week. So until then, I'm Rob T, and you've been listening to What's on My Mind.
Yay.